Welcome back to the Engine, guys. Today we've got a fun video, an NBA lottery redraft from 2010. This video is inspired by Bleacher Report. All the credit goes to them. So basically what we're doing in this video is I'm going to read the original lottery picks from the 2010 NBA draft, and Nick Freeman and Nick Falk have nicely made a redraft, what we would have drafted, what the Engine would have drafted in 2010. And Nick Freeman explained to them what we based that off of.
So instead of basing it off of just the team's needs in 2010 or just the team's needs in current day, we kind of did just the player we want to have on that team throughout the decade, who we thought would bring the team the most success, the role that fit that certain organization, and what types of players they wanted. So it was more of just a full decade rebuild what player we want on the team instead of just then or just now.
Anyways, I digress. So with the first pick in the now what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to read the entire 2010 lottery, 1 through 14 if you don't know what the lottery is, and then we're going to go through ours quickly. Each person's going to talk for their pick, yada, yada, yada. So in the 2010 NBA draft, the first pick was John Wall, then Evan Turner, Derrick Favors, Wesley Johnson, Demarcus Cousins, Ekpe Udoh, Greg Monroe, Al-Farouq Aminu, Gordon Hayward, Paul George, Cole Aldridge, Xavier Henry, Ed Davis, and Patrick Patterson. Starting off with the Engines, the first pick in the Engines draft, Nick Falk selected with the Washington Wizards pick. Paul George, Nick Falk, floor is yours.
So Nick said he would have taken John Wall, but I think the injuries just scared me way too much. 6-time All-Star, 5-time All-NBA, 4-time All-Defensive, and he was almost a Defensive Player of the Year around 2013, 2014, and he clashed with LeBron in a few Eastern Conference Finals series. This was a no-doubter for me.
Freak athlete, on to number 2, John Wall from the Philadelphia 76ers, Nick Freeman.
So I'm not quite sure about this fit with the Sixers, but you have to remember Ben Simmons hasn't been there throughout the decade. So I think John Wall would actually, at the beginning of that decade, do really well. John Wall is one of those guys who, in current day, we're just forgetting how great he was. 3 years ago, he was for sure a top 5 point guard in the league. Amazing defender, one of the best passers in the NBA, one of the most explosive players, 5-time All-Star, really good defender. He made the All-Defensive team, and he was an All-NBA player. He also has averaged 10 assists on multiple years and consistently puts up 20 a game. Just such a great explosive point guard. I think people aren't really remembering how great John Wall was just recently. These injuries, though, have definitely scared him, but throughout the decade, I think he's been a stud.
A little bit of the Kawhi Leonard effect, same with the Anthony Davis effect. But we move on to the third pick in the Engines draft, Gordon Hayward to the New Jersey Nets, Nick Falk.
So Gordon Hayward, I thought, obviously compared to Demarcus Cousins is much better on paper. But if I'm building a championship team, he's a solid second or third option for a championship team in terms of pure scoring. When he was on that Jazz and he made the All-Star team, putting about like 22 points a game, could shoot really well from 3. So I think he's just a solid scorer, an okay defender, someone I like on my team.
Moving on, with the fourth pick in the Engines draft, the Minnesota Timberwolves select Demarcus Cousins, Nick Freeman.
This is not a fit I'm excited about at all. The Timberwolves have a history of getting big men who can't defend. Kevin Love, Karl Anthony Towns, for example. But at this point, you'll see after there's a big drop-off, Demarcus Cousins is the last star, maybe even superstar, on the board. There have been seasons where he averaged 28 points a game, just an amazing scoring center. Like 5 years ago, everyone thought he was the best center in the league. He's obviously fallen off and had some injury concerns, but he was just an amazing center and a great big man. And even though he wouldn't necessarily fit next to Karl Anthony Towns, I think they would have more wins, so they wouldn't be in that first pick position. And I think even though he might be a little similar, you have to go for the superstar here, no matter how many wins that's going to bring you.
With the fifth pick, Eric Bledsoe to the Sacramento Kings, Nick Falk.
So a feisty point guard, really athletic. I think he felt really well in the Sacramento Kings. There's also a pretty big drop-off. Bledsoe's been a starter for almost every year in his career. So I think it's a seamless fit on the Kings.
With the sixth pick in the Engines redraft, Avery Bradley to the Golden State Warriors, Nick Freeman.
Yeah, Avery Bradley has been one of the best defensive guards of the decade, no question. I think he would fit really well next to Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. He wouldn't really need to do any offense, which is a good thing for him just because of how great of a defensive guard he is. So I really love this fit, and I think him not having to do much on offense makes him an even better player.
With the seventh pick, Derrick Favors to the Detroit Pistons, Nick Falk.
So the Pistons obviously love big men. They have 2 big men right now. And, I mean, Derrick Favors was a defender and rebounder back in his day. At some points, he averaged 16 points a game, almost 2 blocks a game, a decent amount of rebounds. So he was pretty underrated. He doesn't really fit with the modern NBA as he can't really shoot, but I still think he's a solid role player.
With the 8th pick, the Los Angeles Clippers select Hassan Whiteside, Nick Freeman.
You guys know, you've heard me talk about it. I am not a Hassan Whiteside fan at all. I trash talk.
Yeah, we know Nick Freeman.
But I think with the Clippers, his talent is there. He's put up he's one of the better shot blockers. His effort might not be there, but at this point in the draft, you're getting a guy with really high upside, can put up 20 points on a given night, can put up 15 rebounds a night, which is still really solid. And I think the Clippers, throughout the decade, pretty much have needed a center. I guess DeAndre Jordan, but still Hassan Whiteside would be really good to have, especially recently.
With the 9th pick, Utah Jazz, Nick Falk selects Jeremy Lin.
So Jeremy Lin, of course, you're getting a solid point guard, a solid scoring point guard. But I think people forget how much media attention the Knicks got from signing Jeremy Lin, the first Chinese player in a while. So, I mean, I think this will just bring a ton of attention to the Jazz, which don't really get much because they're in Utah. So I think it's a no-brainer for me.
With the 10th pick, Indiana Pacers, Nick Freeman, Greg Monroe.
Greg Monroe has been kind of a forgotten big man recently, but throughout his career, he's a guy who gets you 15 points in 10 a game, and he fits into that Pacers mold with guys who do it quietly and really produce pretty well. And I think he's just a solid big man, can do it defensively as well.
With the 11th pick, the New Orleans Hornets at the time, Nick Falk, Evan Turner.
So Evan Turner, a solid scorer, more of an ISO scorer, but I think the Pelicans really could have developed him into a better player. I know we're not really talking about development, but how they performed. But I think his scoring potential, I just had to take him here.
With the 12th pick, the Memphis Grizzlies and Nick Freeman select Al-Farouq Aminu.
He's one of my guys. He brings it to you defensively. He doesn't need a lot offensively, but can give you buckets in the interior. Kind of an undersized small forward or power forward, can play small forward, pretty versatile. And I think he would be good with the Grizzlies next to Marcus Gasol and Zach Randolph at that small forward spot. Just a great defender, and I think any team could use an Al-Farouq Aminu.
What makes him one of your guys?
Usually my guys are slept-on defenders who could play on any team.
So like Dragan Bender, like slept-on defender?
Exactly.
So good.
Yeah, moving on, Toronto Raptors, 13th pick, Lance Stevenson, Nick Falk. I know you've talked about the blowing on LeBron James. I know it's one of your favorite NBA moments.
I have no opinion on the blowing. I mean, Lance Stevenson's an interesting guy, but I think we have to remember he was a very good defender on that Pacers team, despite how maybe a locker room cancer he was. But you also lost the fact that he was hard to play against because of how annoying he was. So
Some would say that he blows people away. Huh?
No? Good one.
All right. With the final pick of the lottery, Nick Freeman's Houston Rockets select Patrick Peterson, who actually got selected by the Houston Rockets at 14. In real life, Nick Freeman.
Yeah, I know the Rockets were just praying this whole entire draft process to get Patrick Patterson at 14. Pretty good role player, I guess. He actually can stretch the floor decently. He's been in the NBA. He's actually been like a role player all 10 years, which is pretty impressive and rare, but you don't get much upside out of him.
Well, that'll conclude this episode of Redrafts. If you guys like these, comment down below. Tell us if we should do more, if we shouldn't. If you have any video suggestions, comment down below. You know we're all bored during quarantine. If there's something you want to see, just comment it. If you guys like these, we can do NFL ones and NBA ones as well. But that will conclude this episode of The Engine. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a good rest of your day, night, whenever you guys watch this, and like and subscribe. Thank you so much.
Thank you.